The title of this talk is Learning Elixir and Erlang with Advent of Code in Exercism, Advantages and Challenges. As Bernardo said, my name is Adolfo Neto. I'm Adolfo NT on Twitter. My webpage is adolfont.github.io. And here is a QR code that leads to my webpage. I'm really glad to be here, unfortunately, virtually at CodeBeam Europe. Who knows, maybe next year I will be in person. And the script for this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit more about who I am, what's Advent of Code, what's Exercism, what's good and bad in AOC and Exercism, and how to use AOC and or Exercism to learn Erlang and or Elixir, which are languages that I believe everyone here knows at least a little bit. As Bernardo said, I'm a professor at the Federal University of Technology, Paraná, here in Curitiba. Curitiba is a city in the south of Brazil, relatively cold compared to other cities here. I'm a co-host of the Elixir in Foco podcast. I believe it's the only podcast about Elixir in Brazilian Portuguese, and maybe it's also the only podcast about Elixir that's not in English. Our next interview, we are going to publish with English subtitles on YouTube. So if you click here, you'll be able to find the links to the YouTube channel. I'm a member of the Education, Training, and Adoption Working Group of the Erlang Ecosystem Foundation. I'm also on YouTube. I have a channel in English, one in Portuguese. I have an Instagram account, Telegram, GitHub, Twitch, even TikTok, although I haven't published any video there yet. And which are the difficulties in learning Elixir and Erlang? So I'm not an advanced Elixir or Erlang programmer, and I started learning them, Elixir maybe in 2017, Erlang maybe 2020. And when someone is starting to learn a programming language, of course, for any programming language, there are common programming pitfalls, but specifically Erlang and Elixir, they have some specific pitfalls. For instance, some functional programming concepts. When I was a Java programmer, I didn't have to write anonymous functions. And there are some syntax details regarding Elixir and Erlang, the use of the dots, the parentheses. Sometimes one problem that someone that comes from another language can have is that he or she brings the practices from their communities, but these are not the best practices in Elixir and Erlang communities. And as we all know, concurrency, OTP, it's difficult by itself. And these are some of the difficulties when you're trying to learn these languages. What helps? This is only my opinion. No, this is not research-based, but I love reading books. For instance, Pragmatic Programmers has great books, but also many other books, well-structured materials like Elixir School. It's great if you can to have a mentor, to chat with other people in conference like here, participating in the community at Elixir Forum, Erlang Forums, on Twitter. The best place to find me is on Twitter. These are the hashtags we usually use there. I have created the Elixir World Telegram group. I love listening to podcasts. That's so much that I've even created one for Elixir. What else? Say in the chat. And what else helps? And I see. I can read 10 books about Elixir or Erlang, but if I don't put the knowledge into practice, it may be useless. I can have a general idea of how to write Elixir or Erlang code, but it's important to write programs. And sometimes you need just a little bit above your current level. So maybe I'm not able right now to write something like WhatsApp, but I can write a small program in Elixir or Erlang. And it's important, in my opinion, to write code idiomatically. That is the way more experienced people in the community write. Because sometimes you just adopt something that is not the way people do in the community. Which of these sites, I'm going to call them sites, Advent of Code and Exercism, although they are very different in some aspects. But which of these sites is the most used? So I asked on Twitter, on Elixir forum, on Erlang forums, have you ever solved an Advent of Code or an Exercism challenge? And you see, on Erlang forums, people had more experience with Advent of Code. With Elixir forum, it was almost a tie. And on Twitter, much more Exercism than Advent of Code. And I created a Whova poll. So please answer there if you have ever solved at least one Advent of Code or Exercism challenge. And what's Advent of Code? So if you go to their website, it's a very simple website. It doesn't even have a logo, for instance, but it's so well known that it deserved a Wikipedia entry. The creator of Advent of Code is Erlang Neto. He's a programmer, and it's an annual event. What do I mean by event? So every day between December 1st and December 25th, they release a challenge. The rest of the year, the site is there, but there's no new challenge. It's a kind of competition, but not exactly a competition. Erlang Neto explains that very well on his webpage. There are it's possible to create your own leaderboard. Even Elixir Forum and Erlang forums, they have their own leaderboards. I don't think they are useful, but okay, you can use them. And there is a global leaderboard. That's why I say it's a kind of competition, but that competition is only for those people that are in the right time zone. And Erlang Neto has an excellent explanation for that, because he only releases the problem when he can solve problems with the site. So the first 100 people that solve the day's challenge, they get some points that are used in the leaderboard. So what counts for the ranking is who finds the answer first. And the answer is usually a number. Yes, the answer is usually a number. You don't have to write a program in a specific language. Some people use even Excel to solve Advent of Code problems. I have started Advent of Code in 2019. I only did days 1 and 2. Then in 2020, I did it a little bit more. And in 2021, I did some more. You see, I skipped here 11. But for each day, you receive a star. So that's why 1 and 2 here means 4 stars. And here, 2021, I got 24 stars. And my solutions are on GitHub. Not all my solutions. Maybe I lost some of my old solutions, but the ones from 2021 are here. And what's important to know about Advent of Code? There is for each challenge. First, each challenge has 2 parts. If you don't solve part 1, you don't have access to part 2. So this here is I counted the words in the description for days 1, 2, 3 from 2021. You see, it's a relatively long description. The day 1 has 631 words. this includes parts 1 and 2. Day 3, 1,000 words. So you have to read a lot of words. Why? Because it's a kind of story. They have a nice story, and this story starts on day 1 and goes until day 25. You have to pay close attention to the wording, to the way they describe the problem, because, for instance, on day 2, part 1, 2019, they describe the problem, and then in the last line they say, oh, to do this, before running the program, replace position 1 with value 2. So this is kind of, it's not what, if you started reading, you say, oh, this is easy. No, I have to do that. So you have to read, to pay close attention to everything there. One thing that can be a problem for many people is that you don't know each day if it's going to be a very easy problem or if it's going to be very difficult. So they don't say. You just have to read, try, and sometimes you read and you think, at least I did, and I saw other people doing that. Oh, yeah, this is easy. And then you start doing, and oh, no, this is not easy. So that's what I mean by undisclosed difficulty. And because of all I told here, sometimes the solutions can be very ad hoc. What I mean, it's as Wikipedia says, it's a solution for a specific purpose. So it's not a very general solution. It only solves that problem, and you have to hack here and there to get to a solution. Let's go now to Exercism. This is the page where the creator of Exercism first announced the site. And here she says, Exercism is a place where people can improve their programming skills by solving toy problems. So let me just start here. So improve programming skills. So the focus is on improving programming skills, and they recognize that they are toy problems, and that you are going to have friendly and rich discussions about the ways to make code better. Who created Exercism? Katrina Owen. I have just checked. This webpage is down, but she's on Twitter, and there is also a page, an entry on Wikipedia about Exercism. What does Exercism provide? It's a little bit more than Advent of Code, because besides the exercises, they also provide free mentoring. So you can have a mentor that is going to read your solution and say, oh, this is right. No, this is wrong. The descriptions of the problems, as far as I know, I don't remember having seen a long description for a problem like in Advent of Code. I counted some here. These are the number of words. So you see less than 200 words. And in Exercism, you have to choose a programming language, because it's from Advent of Code. Advent of Code, the solution is a number. In Exercism, the solution to the challenge is a program in a specific programming language. And they already give you the tests. So you have a description, you have the tests, and you have to write the code that passes those tests. Exercism is on version 3 right now. This is the link. Oh, it's wrong here, the link, but it's okay. And here is an example of mentoring. I'm also a mentor on Exercism. For instance, this is the mentoring page where there is the code. Left side here is the code that my students wrote. Right side is my discussion with that student. For instance, I told him, no, there are some usually comments, please remove them. Why do you need to put this in your code, and oh, lines 14 and 19 could use more pipes. And there's also one way that he used pipes, and I thought that was not very idiomatic. And yes, this is another example. I told him, oh, you don't need to change int to float. You can do that. And that's it. That's an example. Let's go back now to Advent of Code. How did I learn about Advent of Code? I really don't remember, but I remember that in 2018, José Valim, the creator of Elixir, streamed himself solving Advent of Code challenges. So the videos, he didn't do all days, all tasks, but he has done some of them. They are on his Twitch channel. And in 2021, Sekun, who seems to be a guy from the Philippines, he started editing the videos because as José Valim's videos were live streams, they were maybe longer than needed if you wanted just to understand Valim's solution. So Sekun created shorter edited versions of Valim's videos, and they are great work by Sekun. He even created a place to, if you want to support Sekun, it's here. And I just learned a few minutes ago that he was looking for a job and he got an offer. So good luck, Sekun, in your next job. What's good and bad in AOC, in my opinion, of course? What I really like about AOC is that when the month of December starts, many people in the community start saying, oh, I solved. For instance, I remember Laura Castro from A Coruña, she tweeted, oh, and when you tweet with Advent of Code, you don't tweet a solution. You don't even have to say which language you use it. You just tweet, oh, I solved day 2, part 1, or I solved day 2 of Advent of Code. So this is a kind of a positive reinforcement because, oh, someone is doing that, I can do it too. And also in Elixir forum and Erlang forums, they create one thread for each day. So if you want to, right now, if you want to go to Advent of Code, day 14, 2018, you can solve by yourself. Then you can go to Elixir forum and find the discussions that happened on that day in 2018. Erlang forums, as it is more recent, I believe they only have from 2021 on. What's bad, and this is bad between quotes in AOC, is that they have problems during weekends. But you see, Spawn Fest is great, and it happens on a weekend too. But in December here in Brazil is spring, summer. So sometimes I just don't want to use 1 hour of my Sunday to solve an IOC problem. And some challenges from AOC require a lot of prior knowledge. And this kind of knowledge you usually have when you have participated in programming competitions. So be advised that this can be a problem. You can, I have no idea how to solve this. It's because of that. And this is more a question. Maybe there is a stimulus to write unreadable code. You don't have to put comments. You don't have to, you just have to generate the right number. The right number is your answer. So maybe that's not good practice for people that work in companies. What's good and bad in Exercism? I love the mentoring. Brujo Benavides gave a talk today, and he was my mentor in many Erlang problems, but many other people were my mentors there too. I like that Exercism provides you with tests. It's very good for beginners because they can see how tests can be written. And this new version of Exercism, version 3, has automatic feedback. So even before being mentored, you can the software can give you some feedback. Oh, this, you shouldn't be doing that. And what's bad between codes, of course. And you see this is kind of contradictory, but the tests are already there. So it's impossible to do TDD. TDD is test-driven development, is when you write tests before writing the code. And you can't write tests if the tests are already written, so it's not TDD. In TDD, you yourself have to write tests. And I have seen some discussion that version 3 kind of discourage mentoring. This is debatable, of course, but I have seen some discussion. So I'm going to have another slide about that later. What have I learned in these years using Exercism and Advent of Code? For instance, back in 2018, when I saw Valim solving Advent of Codes, I saw him using enum several times. And there was this kind of, oh, there is a enum function for that. Because at first I would think, oh, I have to write a function, my own function for that. But there is an enum function that does exactly that, or you only have to define an anonymous function and then you solve the problem. So it's great to watch Valim using enum. It's great to watch Valim to using lots of pipes. Oh, and in 2021, he used the live book for Advent of Codes, and he uses Kino. It's great also to see how he used it. He used it. One thing that I remember I learned from Erlang is the practice of writing functions, two functions with the same name but different arity, one being public and the other being private. You can do that in Elixir too. Several great uses of list comprehension, like this one, where I create a list. I get this from the, I believe all is the input, and I do a string split, and I get the several strings, and I apply a function to each string, and the result is the list. What else? I didn't have, before doing Advent of Code, this one specific Advent of Code exercise, much practice with case. This is an example, a beautiful example of using case. And I believe this is also great when you have the time to do it, is when you go to the forum. Sorry, I don't know how to mute myself here. Oh, I should have muted here. When you go to the forum and you read and try to understand the code written by other people. And especially you try to run it, because sometimes people left only a part of the code and I wasn't able to run it. And then, oh, now I know what's missing here. I believe this is good practice too. I learned to use, for instance, regular expressions, split with regular expressions. This is very useful for many Advent of Code problems. How to use Advent of Code to learn Erlang and or Elixir. So this is only a suggestion, of course. In the case of Advent of Code, is use, of course, you can do that all year long. You can right now go there and solve last year's problems, but suppose you want to do in the same day that they are published. So my suggestion is that you set a time limit, maybe 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, and you try to do both tasks for the day. If you can, after solving both tasks, you read other people's solutions on Elixir forum or Erlang forums. If you can't, then either give up or try to complete in another day. Don't do it like I did, spending 3 hours trying to solve some problem. And how to use Exercism to learn Erlang and or Elixir. This one is easier. You just have to join the 2 tracks. Ask for mentorship whenever possible, because it's great. You can now, with this new version of Exercism, you can even generate a link and send to a friend, and that person can register themselves, him, herself as a mentor, and mentor you there. Look at other people's solutions, and this exercism allows you to do that after you solved the problem, and you can also share your solution on the platform. Some people also create a GitHub repository for Exercism and or Advent of Code. So some final tips. I believe that Advent of Code and Exercism are great because they are kind of a habit, like from that book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Sharpen the Saw. So it's good practice to keep on practicing programming. There's also that concept of Codicata by Dave Thomas that evolved into Coding Dojo. So the idea that to become a better programmer, you have to not only do it as a part of your day job, but also to do it as a way to learn more and more and more. It's like exercise that you do to stay in shape. I saw that Martin posted a picture. They ran 5K today. This is great. I wish I were there to run it too. Some announcements before I finish. I will be in CodeBeam A Coruña, the first ever Galician Beam related conference, June 15th. And CodeBeam Brazil 2022 doesn't have dates yet, but it will probably happen, as well as Elixir Brazil. It's probably going to happen in November 2022. And this May 24th, 1 p.m. UTC-3, we are going to have an event called 10 Years of Elixir. Here is the link. I would love to have you there. So that's me again. My name is Adolfo Neto. I'm here. I left a link here with the slides. And if you go to my Twitter account, I have just posted a link to these slides. And I'm here to answer questions or comments or anything else if you want me to. Thank you very much.
All right. Do you have any questions? I don't know. I don't have my phone to check the Hoover.
I'm not.
Okay. Okay. Adolfo, so I have 2 questions here. First one is, which is the main difference between both study platforms?
The main difference is that Exercism is kind of, it's more adequate for beginners. If you are a complete beginner, go to Exercism. It can be useful also if you are an intermediate or experienced programmer, but and as I said, Advent of Code, sometimes you don't know if that day it's going to be easy or difficult, so it's more adequate for people at least intermediate level. And as I said, you can do, for instance, you can do advent of code day 1 with Erlang, day 2 with Elixir, day 3 with Lisp, day 4 with LFE. You can choose your language, it doesn't matter. Your answer is going to be only a number.
Just do I have a question here in the audience?
I don't see any. Sorry.
Oh, there's more questions here in Hugo, so just gonna read them for you. So this one is, oh, you replied already? Oh, no, okay. So in Exercism V3, they removed mandatory mentorship. Do you think that helped or not?
Yes. So I think it was better when mentorship was mandatory, but because you see, some person a beginner can think that their code, because it passes the test, is okay, but sometimes it's not. It's ugly. It's not idiomatic. So that's something that I didn't like. I'm seeing the results here of the poll. It's almost half advent of code and exercism, the UVA poll.
All right, and then the last question is, these tools are a bit removed from real life TM. So what is your tip for the next step after you're done with these exercises?
Yes, good question. This go back to my comment here, that it's the idea is that when you are learning, sometimes you just need something just a little bit about your current level. But real life, of course, it's not like that. So sometimes you have to try to do something that it's not just a little bit about your current level. So people usually suggest that you get involved in an open source project. So if you didn't watch Brujo Benavid's talk, he said, oh, I asked, is there any project that needs contributions? In that case, they are Erlang projects. And he said, yes, many of them. So contribute to an open source project, either in Elixir or Erlang. Create your own if you think you have something that you want to solve. So these are what people usually suggest.
All right, I think we're done. So thank you, Adolfo.
Thank you very much, Bernardo. Thanks, everyone.